in this video, I'm going to explain to you my workflow that I have created that is called the cars.com scraper. Short disclaimer, I did this because of a forum post in the KNIME forum. I have not checked cars.com terms and conditions, if it's allowed or not to scrape the results. I cannot say anything about this. It's more about the technical feasibility rather than the legal aspects of it. So let me just give you a short overview of what the request was. So if you look here at this forum post, which I have linked in the description of this video down below in case you do not watch this video from inside the KNIME forums, this is basically the task. So you will see here, I tried to do this task. The website is http www.cars.com. Please access the link above with the Palladium Notes and collect the data table to KNIME as the following table. Query the first 1,000 cars between $10,000 and $15,000 sorted by price. And then these are basically the attributes to retrieve. So ID, brand, make, model year, color, and price. And populate it into a KNIME node. I'm not really sure what the last term means. C sharp dot off screen, no clue what that means. So let me just quickly show you my workflow. So this is the workflow, and as I've said before, you find this workflow linked. The very first link, it goes to the KNIME Hub in the description, and you'll find that workflow there. You basically see that we first of all have a component that's called cars.com scraper, and then we have several symbol nodes that basically extract and process the data. So let's just go into this. Oh, maybe first, why did I choose a component? Because I wanted to make this workflow configurable. You could also do this without the component, but then you don't have the effect that I'm going to show you right now. So if you right click on the cars.com scraper, you see that you have this option here, this configure. And basically this is like a package or a module or a sub workflow or however you want to call it. The pros here in the KNIME forum probably have a much better description for this than I have, but that's basically my understanding. So if you look here, if I click configure, as with every other node in KNIME, basically we have these three options. We have the upper price limit, the lower price limit, and the number of entries to return. So, and these are basically the three configuration options we are going to use. And you see also from the typo in upper that it's handcrafted by me and is not default of KNIME. So how do you get these input fields? That's why you need to do a component, because within a component, and I'm going to show you that right now, we control double click on the component. Within a component, I could use what is called configuration nodes. So we have these three configuration nodes here. If we just select them, you see them here. They basically drive these three fields: upper price limit, lower price limit, and number of entries to return. So let me show you where they are. Price lower, and I gave them variable names. They create what is called a flow variable. So flow variable, or variable as in any programming language, is basically just a container that holds information to be used and processed later on. And this one here holds the textual, very important textual information of the lower price limit, in our case the 10,000. The same is true here for the upper price limit. That's called var price upper. That holds the 15,000, and you see it here, value overwritten by dialog, which basically is what we just saw in the configure window. It's the 15,000. And then we have the number of entries. I also wanted to have this configurable as well. So you see value overwritten by dialog, current value 1,000. Next is we're going to merge these variables, and maybe there's a better way to do this, but that's just how I'm used to do it. So we basically bring these three different workflows in one workflow together, and then I start with calculating in a math formula the number of loop iterations. I'm using the variable version here because we are still working only with variables so far in this part of the workflow. So oftentimes you find nodes in KNIME where you have normal nodes and a variable version, which basically do the same thing, just for flow variables. And you see this later on here as well for the string manipulation. So let me just quickly go in here. And basically what I do is I take the only numerical flow variable that I have here, which is the number of entries. And you see, I even misspelled it here. I said number entries instead of number of entries. And I say, okay, I want to round up. So basically, I round up the number of entries, and then I divide it by 100, because my results page later on, when using the Selenium nodes, the maximum results I can show on one page is 100 results. So I divide this by 100, so I know how often do I have to go with an adjusted URL through these results to get the first 1,000. And why do I use ceiling? Because with everything that is above 900, so 901 and greater, would mean we would have at least 10 pages. Same would be true for 1200. So if you had 1201, you would have 13 results pages, and so on and so forth. Therefore, I use the ceil function here, which you find here in the functions. And then I basically create a new variable that I call var iterations. And this is what I feed into my counting loop start. So basically here, standard iterations is set to 10, I guess, but I go into the flow variables and say, no, I don't want to take the default one. I want to have the calculated variable that I just created before, the var iterations. So that basically drives how often the inner part of this loop is executed. And then the inner part, so to say, starts. So first of all, I calculate the current page URL. Why do I have to do this? So the current iteration, and we can see this here, for example. So we have 10 iterations, and you see current iteration is 9. Why is it 9, although we have 10? Because NIME, as in many programming environments and programming languages, starts to count at 0. So, of course, there is, but the website starts at page 1, not at page 0. So we have to add 1 to that number. And that's what we exactly do here. So we have basically a new variable that's called var page, and that is basically the current iteration, the current run through the loop plus 1. So 0 plus 1 equals 1, 1 plus 1 equals 2, 2 plus 1 equals 3, and so on and so forth. And then we basically create the URL. So let me just quickly show you what I mean by create the URL. If you just look at this URL here, you see that all the search parameters here are in the URL. So if you look here, the price max, the 15,000 is in here. The price min, 10,000 is in here. The page is in here. So the first results page, the second results page, the third results page, and so forth. And we can also set how many results do we want to show per page. In this case, it's 100. It automatically adds some other stuff. For example, it also adds this zip code here. I'm not sure where this is coming from. Maybe it takes it from my IP address or something. It's always auto set to 30 miles within this zip code. But as this was not part of the question or the task, I have not considered it. So let's go back to NIME. Here in NIME, I basically use the string manipulation and I create the, let's say, the part that does not change, which is by using a join function. Join is basically concatenating strings together. So join A, comma B would result in AB, or join Phil and Kowalski would result in Phil Kowalski. And what I basically do here is I take the non-dynamic parts, for example, up until the page, and then I insert the variables here. So I have a calculated variable for the page. For the first page, it is 1, and that gets inserted here, then comma, and then a comma, and then comes the next part. And you also see that I have the upper price here, and the lower price here, and the rest that is non-dynamic. So let me just show you what the final result looks like. We just go to the appended variables, and you see this is the result it takes. And let me just copy and paste this. So if we take this, we should come to page number 10 here. So let me just paste this in here. If we just call this URL, you see we are on page. Oh, it takes a moment to load, but maybe we just scroll all the way down. If the site doesn't freeze, well, typical problem on my end. But if you scroll all the way down, you see we are on page 10, 100 results per page. That's exactly what we want. So, and then I basically start the WebDriver, and maybe Philip from the Palladium Notes can give a better advice how to better structure this. But what I basically do here is I start the WebDriver, very important. I use the Chromium bundled. For me, as I always seem to have a newer Chrome version, I rather use the bundled Chromium version, which starts the web browser, and the URL is set in the flow variables because it's exactly the URL we have set here in the node before, and that gets fed through these variable ports here into this start WebDriver. I can choose it here. It's the URL we're going to call. Then I extract the whole page. So I say just give me the whole page source of this request, and then I quit the WebDriver. Probably it would have been easier if I had put the loop before quit WebDriver. Well, you know, there's always place for optimization. But if you just look here, then we have the loop end node. And that basically gives me 10 rows. And let me just show you in the results table how this looks like. What we have here is basically the source code of each of the results pages. And within that source code, if we just have a look here, we will find all the elements that we see here. So basically, we see this ad, then this ad, and so on and so forth. And that basically is the component. And that this table is then handed over to the component output, which in return makes it available here at the output port of this component. Then I use an HTML parser that basically creates from this table that comes out of this component. We see we have one column here that's called source, or we also have the iteration. I'll come to that in a moment. That creates valid XML or HTML out of it. And that's part of the Palladium Notes. Palladium Notes is another great free add-on that you could use in KNIME, especially interesting if you're going into web scraping and text processing and so on. And then I use the XPath node because I don't want the whole web page. I basically want just parts of it. So XPath helps me to get rid of everything else if you want. So what I do in XPath is basically I create two queries. I first want to have the title, which I then further process a little bit further down the workflow. And I also want to have the link. So how do I get this? If you just have a look at the source code here, and we see this is the title. It looks like, for me at least, it looks like the title is always constructed in the same way. It has the year the car was manufactured, it holds the brand, and then it holds the make and any other additional information. So if you just look at these ads, it's always the same. So year, brand, make, year, brand, make, year, brand, and then make. So what I basically want, so once I discovered this, I wanted to extract two things, because if you just see, if I hover over this, this holds a link. First thing I wanted to do, and you see this here in German because I'm using a German browser, I'm located in Germany. So let me just show you. Let's just have a look at it. If we just see this one here. So we see this is the link, and let me just close the console here for a moment. You basically see the link, and here, if you're a little bit aware of HTML, you are aware that A, which is the HTML tag for a link, always usually contains an href attribute which holds the current link. And you see here, so this goes to the detailed page. So I wanted to have this. And if I just look at what the class is here in this regard, the class is vehicle card link JS gallery click link. Let's have a look at another one. Let's see if the name is always the same, because it's interesting for us only if the name is the same. If the name would be different for every ad, that makes it slightly more difficult, to be honest. So we want to have the same here. So I just click on this little icon here, and then I can research this element here. Let me just see, why can't I click on this? You see here, it's the same again, right? Vehicle card link, JS gallery, click link. So I know here in NIME that this is the class name I need to be looking for. And basically, this is just how you create it. How do you get this XPath? So basically, I wrote this myself, but usually, let me just see, we can go, if you right click here in the developer mode and then click on copy and copy XPath, let me just see, I guess it gives me a different one. No, there it is, basically. So, yeah, but that's a different one. So maybe that's, you see, this one looks undynamic. This one looks for this specific ad, right? So we want something different. If you need a little bit more explanation about XPath, maybe some of the NIME forum members can jump in here how to get it. I just knew that this was the nomenclature, how you need to phrase these XPath details here. Same is true then for the title. So once I have this, if you just look here on the right, we all of a sudden have the listing title here in this column, or maybe we just look at the results table. We have, where do we have it? Come on, here it is. We have the listing title here, right? And then we have the vehicle listing link here. This is not the whole link, but this just needs to be adjusted, which we will do in a moment further down the road. First of all, I split the cells, because what I tell NIME basically here is, hey, split by space, because if you remember, if we just look at these ads, you see 2014 space, so year, space, brand, space, make. And that's the maximum I could extract from here. So what I basically tell NIME, hey, take the listing title, which contains this information. You don't see anything here, but there is actually a space in here. And I set the array size to 3. So I want to have one array which holds the year, one array which holds the brand, and then one array which holds everything else. So that's why I set it to 3. And then I just go into another string manipulation node, because the vehicle link actually only is a subpart of the URL that needs to be connected with https://www.cars.com. And then we add the vehicle link at the end. And if you just look at the result here, you basically see the complete URL. So if we just take one random URL from here, like this one, we just Control-C for copy, and we go here into a page, Control-V. We are going to this detailed ID or detailed ad, right? Which I understand was the question at hand here. All right, so let's just go back here. And then finally, I use the table manipulator, which is my new best friend. Instead of chaining many nodes together, this node allows me to do a lot of things at once. So basically what I do in the table manipulator, first of all, the cell splitter just created listing title array headings, and I just rename them, and then I restructure them. And by checking the checkbox, so restructuring is very easily done by like doing something like this. So let's move it back down here. So you can move by using these handles. You can delete a column, so to say, by checking or unchecking this box here. And you could rename it by basically creating, by just typing the new name in here. So let me just undo this. And we are cancelled. And that basically leaves you with with a table that holds 998 listings of the complete title, the year, the brand, the make, and the link to the details. So that is my explanation of the cars.com scraper, which I have created. So if you like this video, maybe you go to YouTube and give it a like or comment. Always helps the algorithm and helps my channel and is a little bit worth the effort for me then, so to say. If you have any questions, either ask them directly under the video on YouTube or ask them here in the forum. So I hope this helps you. And hey, let us know if that helped you to land a job. That would be awesome. So thanks a lot. Take care and bye-bye.